All right. I think we will just get started here. Thanks everybody for joining us. I'm going to start the presentation now. Welcome to the fourth annual Flypaper Summit. Excited to have you all here, and especially excited to talk to you about a little bit about what we did over the last year, what we've got planned on our roadmaps for all of our products, and also the Q&A sessions. So one thing about the Q&A sessions as well, if you ask a question, you can ask it in the chat, and Andrew will kind of read them off when we get to the Q&A sessions. And if you ask a question, you'll be entered to win a Flypaper branded AirPod Pros. So we'll do a drawing for that in the next couple days after the summit. So I'll just get started with the basics. Flypaper, who are we? Flypaper consists of myself, Nick Fredericks, the CEO and founder of Flypaper Technologies, Dan Stevenson, the CTO, who unfortunately could not be with us or be here with us today, Andrew Stone, our marketing manager, and also we work directly with Encircle, who we've worked with for the past 5 or 6 years now, for them supporting us with some development needs. So right now we work directly with Ajit, Amit, and Shivangi at Encircle, and they are some of our development resources there. So what did we do last year? If you've been to one of our summits in the past, these slides will look fairly familiar. We like to start with just some stats about our various products. For Sherlock, we are now have grouped over 1 billion clashes, which is an increase of 150% from last year. It's a pretty crazy number to even really think about, that many clashes even existed out in the world, but they do. The other thing that kind of translates to, from our stated statistic of saving a coordinator 8.4 hours per week if they're doing clash grouping the way that we do, that spread out over the now 227 companies that use Sherlock. That translates into about a little over 12,000 work days saved. And another stat that we like to keep track of is just how many countries are we in, how many different companies are within the different countries that we serve, and now we're up to 4 countries, or 14 countries. We added 4 from last year. Our other products, so our daily application, which is our Superintendent Daily application that's built into our online Flypaper platform. We are now at about 2,000 users of that daily application. That includes general contractors and trade partners. There have been over 100,000 dailies generated across the 325 projects that have run through daily. And our final product that is currently out is PlanScan, which is still in a private beta right now, which is why the user counts are a little bit lower. The users, we have about 30 users that have used PlanScan. They've planned almost 7,000 activities across the 10 projects that they've been built on, or they've been planning in. And then just to kind of go over a few of the statistics about bugs and features for each one of these products. So for Sherlock, we fixed 24 bugs within Sherlock, released 12 features this year, and answered 195 support questions over the year. And we'll kind of get into a little bit about what those features were and how they affected Sherlock in the slides in the future. Same thing with daily, 32 bugs, 18 features, and 85 support questions. And then for PlanScan, we were definitely more heavy on the bug fixing on PlanScan. It is in a private beta, so that is why we're a little bit more heavy on fixing bugs there than introducing features. And we did answer 34 support questions for that. So the agenda for the rest of the summit is that we're going to go do a deep dive into Sherlock. We're going to talk about what's new in Sherlock, what happened over the last year. talk about our roadmap for our various features, and then we're going to do a Q&A about everything Sherlock. We're going to take a 5-minute break after that, just to kind of give everybody a chance to stretch their legs. And then we are going to talk about the Flypaper platform, which includes our products Plan, Scan, and Daily. We'll do a roadmap, and then we will close with questions and answers on that as well. Like I said earlier, if you do ask a question, feel free to just throw it in the chat. Andrew will read it out for the Q&A. If you do ask a question, then you'll be entered to win those AirPod Pros when we do the drawing for it in the next couple days. So let's dive into Sherlock. What's new with Sherlock over the last year? So the things that are new are we released our Navisworks 2024 support. That happens every year. The biggest feature that we released over the last year is our Procore integration that is now generally available, so if you use Procore coordination issues and you use Sherlock, you can now use our integration. So if you haven't jumped into that, please reach out to us so that we can kind of schedule you a demo for those things. Otherwise, and also I'll do a little demo here in a second. So with Distill, we added some new template tags into Distill. For rename, we added a few new features to reset your group numbers and things like that. And with areas, we finally released an easier way for you to manage your areas, which has been something that our customers have asked about that feature for a long time. So the Procore integration, it essentially allows you to directly create Procore coordination issues from your Clash Detective. And then it links those two things together so that we can do bidirectional change syncing between them. So an example of the things that get synced back and forth between the Navisworks and the Procore coordination issue is that, inside of Navisworks, if a Clash is approved or resolved, the corresponding issue will be closed within Procore. If a Clash is unapproved or unresolved, maybe it comes back, or it was approved by accident, then the issue will be reopened in Procore. And then on the Procore side, if you close an issue, the Clash will be set to approved. If you reopen an issue inside of Procore, the Clash will be set to active if it was previously approved. And if you change the assignee within Procore, then the assignee will be changed within the Clash Detective inside of Navisworks, and then name changes sync back and forth between those two things. So let's take a look at that for a second. So I've got a model here that's already been set up, and it's already in Procore. It's already been associated with a Procore project. And I have already connected my Procore. So if you have not connected Procore, you just click on this button. It'll take you through the login process. This model hasn't even been grouped yet. I'm just going to group it with Distill really quickly, just to have some groups in here. So now that I've got some of those groups, if I review some of these, I can say I want to create coordination issues out of group 29 and 31. I can just multi-select them here, hit create issue, and it will pop open this window, which will pull in all of the information from Procore. So all of the assignees that are in that Procore project are here. I'm just going to assign it to myself. The locations from that Procore project, the types, the priorities, things like that are all pulled in here. And these are also linked to your field sets within Procore. So if you have maybe turned off some of these fields inside of Procore because you never use the priority or something like that, then you won't see it here either. Or if you've said that, hey, the type is a required field within Procore, it will be a required field within our integration as well. And your selections here will be remembered for the next time you go to hit create issue. So if you're just kind of going through and choosing all of the issues for a single person or location, then you don't have to reselect these things each time. So I'm just going to hit create on this group 31 and group 29 here. And then I'm going to pull up the Procore plugin, because if I take a look at the coordination issues in the Procore plugin here, let's do that. And I had some filters on here. So let me remove these things. Let's force a refresh. There they are. So there's group 29. And if I, you can see that it's named exactly the same thing as I've got the this named. And also if you look at the assignment inside of Navisworks, you can see that this is now assigned to Nick Fredericks. And that is because I chose myself as the assignee there as well. So that's kind of the creation of the issues, but then you can sync those status changes back and forth. So if I approve or resolve this issue inside of Navisworks, if I go to sync issues, you can see that it tells me that this group 29 is going to close inside of Procore. And the reason is that the clash was resolved in Navisworks. So you can choose to do that sync, and it will do that into Procore, or you can choose to ignore it as well. Because sometimes if you don't want some of these things to happen, you run a clash detection and a lot of things go resolved, you might want to review them first. And that will happen there. The other things that will work is within Procore. So if I change, say, the assignee to this flypaper assignee, now if I come back over here to sync issues, you can see that two things are now going to happen. It's going to close it in Procore because the clash was closed within was resolved in Navisworks, and the assignee was changed in Procore. So now it's going to assign the clash to flypaper here. I'm just going to have it do both of those things and sync those. So it's a quick little process. Now I have no more pending things, and now you can go back over here and I can do a force refresh here. You can see that it's now grayed out inside of Procore because it's been closed. And if I scroll over here, you can see that the assignee was changed to flypaper. So that is the Procore integration in a nutshell. And these are the kind of the things that sync back and forth. What's new with Distill over the last year is we did add some new template tags for you. We added item 1 and item 2 tags. They use the same name that the Clash Detective uses for the items of a clash. And it also uses the most common name within the clash group. So if there's a common item that's inside of that clash group, the clash group could have, say 10 clashes in it. Whatever model item that is most clashing with things, there's the most number of clashes with that model item. That's the name that it's going to use in that template tag. And then we split up a couple of our template tags to give you a little bit more flexibility over the way that you kind of mix and match those things. So previously we had a selections involved tag that has been split into a selection A and a selection B tag. And the grid intersection tag was split into grid line 1 and grid line 2. So now you have the ability to specify your own delimiters and things like that in there as well. So if I jump back over to Navisworks here, I'll just pop open that settings window here. This is where you can kind of set up your Distill group naming template. So I'm just going to delete these things out of here and kind of show you these. So grid line 1, so that'll give you the first grid line that's there. And then you can put in whatever delimiter you want. I'll use a hyphen, and you can put in grid line 2 there as well. Same thing with selection A and selection B. The selection A and selection B, what those pull in is rather than the items that are clashing, it's going to look at the model hierarchy and either pull in the search set name or the selection set name of that selection inside of your clash detective. So if I go to select over here, this is standard selection, so it would pull in, for selection A, it would pull in PCOR EL all.nwc. But if you had used search sets or selection sets here, they would be able to, or it would pull in the name of the search set or selection set, not the actual model name. So that's kind of a using selection A and selection B is a kind of a powerful way for you to be able to name your clashes and be able to sort and see which things are really clashing with which search sets. And then one of the other things that we did with Distill is we did make some speed improvements for models that are using search sets. Search sets for the tests that have been set up with search sets, that's always been a little bit slower than direct selection or selection sets, but we've spent some time to create some speed improvements there as well. With our rename feature, we added the ability for you to be able to renumber your clashes and also for you to be able to import your Distill naming template right into rename. And then we also added all those same tags that we added to the Distill naming template as well. So if I jump over here and I take a look at rename, you can see that by default, it just brings in the existing clash name tag. But you now have this button here for use Distill naming template, and that will bring in whatever you have already set up in the Distill naming template. So maybe you want to rename everything to a new format that you've already decided on inside of your Distill group name template. So maybe I just want to make everything back to group and a number. So I'll just save that as my Distill naming template. And now if I go in here and I hit rename, you can see that I can hit use the Distill naming template, and now the updated name is just going to be group and a number. And then that ability for you to kind of reset your group numbers is right here. So it tells you that the next number it's going to use is 34. That's just the next number in the sequence. But if you wanted to restart at 1 or start at 200 or 300, you will be able to do that as well here. So I'll just hit rename, and now you'll see all of these things here. And you will also see that because I just changed the name of that that group that was linked to that Procore issue, it's now going, the Procore sync issues window is now going to suggest that I also rename the issue within Procore. So I'll just do that real quick. And there we go. So get back to the keynote. And then the last new feature that we added to Sherlock over the last year is the ability for you to manage your areas in a list view. This list view here, you can kind of see it in the screenshot, gives you the ability to just look at all the areas that you've got set up inside of your model, edit them and delete them right from that window. So rather than you having to go into the 3D view, change the filter by level, things like that, to be able to figure out where all of your areas even were. Now we'll give you a list view there for you to do that. So I can show you that real quick. If I jump into here and I hit area list, you can see that I've got a phase 1 area and a phase 2 area set up. It tells me which grid system that area was first drawn on, what levels they go from and to, and then edit and delete. So that's it for what happened over the last year for Sherlock. So now I'm going to go into a little bit about the roadmap, and then we'll get to that Q&A. So I see that there's a lot of questions already in the chat there. So our roadmap consists of kind of 3 things: some reporting features, some improvements to the integration, specifically the Procore integration, and some core updates for some of our existing features. So with reporting, we are still working on our Clash burn down charts. That will be coming within Q4 of this year. We're just putting the final touches on it right now, and we'll have that ready for you by then. This will give you the ability to just have a single button for you to kind of status your model so that you can kind of keep track of clash counts as you go through coordination. And it will store that information. It will show you burn down and burn up charts of those clashes with the ability for you to filter by model name, clash test, search set, those types of things. And you will also have the ability to export all of that data to an Excel spreadsheet that you'll be able to, use in your own Power BI dashboards or anything like that that you've already set up. Some more things on reporting. We'll be adding some PDF reporting features that have been requested by a lot of users. One is a PDF viewpoints report from our viewpoints feature. Another is a PDF report for the Clash burndown feature after that gets released. And then also a PDF report of heat map itself that will provide you with things like how many clashes are clashing within each heat map, that kind of overall plan view of the heat map, that type of thing. And then the next improvement that we will be doing is on our Procore integration. So right now, Clash comments don't do anything. They don't translate over to the coordination issue. So we're going to give you the ability to choose that your Clash comment from the Clash Detective is used as the description for the coordination issue. Because a lot of people put their, the things that they want done with that issue in the comments within the Clash Detective, and then now those will translate over into Procore as well. Same thing for Clash redline text. You'll have the ability to be able to turn that on so that that will actually translate to a description in the coordination issue as well. So some users don't use comments in the Clash Detective, but they do use the redline text feature on the viewpoints to be able to write out, text directly onto the viewpoint. That text does go over to the snapshot that's in Procore, but we'll take it a step further and make it so that that redline text actually becomes the description of the coordination issue as well. And then the third thing that we want to do with the Procore integration is we want to add a visual indicator to the Clash Detective that shows you which Clash groups are already linked. So then as you're looking at the Clash Detective, you can easily know that this Clash group is already linked to a Procore coordination issue. Then a few things on our core features that are on our roadmap. So one thing is that for areas, right now, if you edit the name of an area, your clashes, if you've been using the area names in your Clash Detective as your naming template, right now, if you change the area name, it's not going to change anything of those group names for you. So if you changed the name from phase 1 to phase 2, all your clashes are still going to say phase 1. So this will be a feature for you to, if you want to, have it go through and rename your clash groups to remove the old area name and put in the new area name. Another thing that we want to do with viewpoints is that we know that some models cause the viewpoints feature to run very slowly. We're actively working on this issue. And we should be coming out with a fix for this in the next few weeks to a month here. That's one of the things that we're working on right now. And then another new thing for viewpoints is that we're going to add the ability for it to auto circle or cloud the clashing group to eliminate the need for us to turn on that preserve materials in the viewpoints. So we know that turning on the preserve materials and or the hidden model items does cause the viewpoints that viewpoint to create to be very large. It makes your NWF pretty big after a while of you using the viewpoints feature. So this is one step toward eliminating the need for us to preserve that material requirement. So rather than highlighting those model items in red and green, it will just kind of auto cloud that area for you, so that when somebody is using that viewpoint, they'll be able to see what you're actually talking about. Some fixes or some new features for Distill are that we are going to add the ability for you to use room names in the Clash group name. So that'll be the bounding boxes of a Revit room, and we will be expanding that bounding box because a lot of times the Revit room itself doesn't actually extend into the ceiling. So we will that feature will take care of that for you. So it will expand it up to the next level above automatically for you, so that you're able to actually use those room names in your Clash group names. Another thing with Distill is that we will be adding the ability for you to use your own 3D objects to name clashes. So if you want to bring in, a bunch of 3D bounding boxes and that have names in them, you'll be able to choose that model as something that we should use to name your Distill groups with it. That's been something that's been requested for a while now for Distill. Pretty much every time, or ever since we added our areas tool, people have asked us to add that 3D object ability as well. And for heat map, we're going to add the ability for you to create a heat map for just a selected level in a test or in a model. The reason for that is that, if you have a multi-level model and you're doing the clash across the whole thing, a heat map across your entire building is not as useful as it could be if you were just doing a heat map on a specific level. So we're going to be adding that as well. And the ability for you to isolate a heat map to a specific area. So an area that you've already defined in the areas tool, you'll be able to just heat map that area. So if you're using areas as like say phases, this will give you the ability to just heat map the phase 1 area. That's also been something that was requested from from many users after we introduced the areas tool. And then for isolate, we will be adding a setting for you to expand the bounding box by a certain amount. And this is because, with isolate, it isolates you down to exactly the bounding box that fits the items that you've selected or the clash that you've selected. But a lot of times you want to see just a little bit more on the outside of that. You can do that manually by dragging the handles, but we're going to add in a setting for you to be able to specify how much more you want to see. So maybe you want to put in 1 foot, and that will make it so that that section box will expand by 1 foot in all directions, so that you can kind of have that as your default view. And then with Orient, we're going to kind of add something similar, and it's the ability for you to offset the auto level clipping. So what the auto level clipping does is in a model that is multi-level, when you right click on an item and choose Orient, it will cut the model at the level above and put you into a plan view. And this works well unless your levels are set at the finished floor height of the level above, because if they're set like that, then a lot of times you end up just looking at the floor of the level above. So this will be the ability for you to specify an offset, which will be a negative offset. So you'll be able to say, specify an offset of 6 inches. And now rather than, if your floor is 6 inches thick, you'd specify 6 inches. Now, when you go into that plan view, it will offset below the floor so that you're able to see the things that you're actually trying to point out. And the last thing with Sherlock is that we're going to be adding some better enterprise support. So this will be for our enterprise customers. They'll be able to kind of see real-time usage of licenses and also have the ability to silently install Sherlock on all of their coordinators' computers. So with that, that's it. Let's get into the Q&A. Andrew, if you want to just maybe read off some questions to me.
Sure. Yeah, we got a whole bunch of people with questions ranging all over the place. So, and if there's some of them I might need a little clarification on, so I might ask you to speak up a little bit when we get to that one. So first one we got is a question about areas, and if we're if we're going to add the option to be able to draw rectangular boxes instead of just the polygons that we have now.
That's a good question. It is not currently on the roadmap. We will add it though to our backlog though, because that is a good idea. We started with polygons because it's more generic, but I definitely can see the value in being able to just draw direct rectangles.
Great. Okay. And then another one is about like connecting to other services besides Procore, specifically Trimble construction management or like project site or viewpoint teams or whatever. Like, are we planning on adding any more integrations like that?
As of right now, no. But I will say this, that we built that integration in a way for us to be able to add other platforms to it. So have not specifically looked into the Trimble offerings. I would love it if the person that asked that question, if you could reach out to us so that we could kind of just kick off a dialogue about how you would see that working. I think that would be a good thing for us to do.
Great. Okay. Now I can I'll pop you an email afterward just so we can get things rolling.
Cool.
And then another one we have is about if we're attending Autodesk University this year, which we are. You can definitely see us there. We'll have a booth. So yeah, if you're going, we'll be happy to see you.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, stop by. We'll have a little bit of Flypaper and Sherlock swag there. So stop by and say hi. It'll be myself and Dan will both be there.
Yeah, and then this is the question that we might need a little clarification on, is that can we get a clash test listed as a field? I wasn't quite sure which part that was referring to, but maybe you do.
Yeah,
the name.
Sorry, what was that, Shannon?
Just to have the clash test name integrate from when you're pushing the issue into Procore coordination issues, that you're grabbing the test name it came from.
Gotcha. Are you so you can do that right now, but you do have to name your clashes that way. Right. So as of right now, that would be the way to do that. If you don't want to have that clash test name in there, there's no way to do it currently. But would you actually want it to be the name of the issue, or would you want it to be in the description of the issue?
I want it to be in the description of the fields that pull from Navisworks.
Right. So yeah,
I don't want it, and I don't want it integral as the name of the clash. I want it as the data, the metadata coming in.
Yep, I got you.
Like the assignee or the level or the due date, right?
Right.
A
Yes.
field of sort. I typically group by area, and I use geometry to do it. And so I list the geometry in my clash name. Can't do that with the still yet, but it looks like you guys are working on it. So awesome.
Yep, definitely. So yeah, so I'll add that as a ticket to our backlog as well, that to add some more metadata to that description field.
Perfect.
Cool.
Okay. Next one we had is, will trade be added as another field in that when you're creating a Procore issue?
Yes, trade will be added. I forgot to put that on this roadmap. It is on the roadmap to add the trade dropdown to that create issue. It is already actually in the works. So
great. Okay. Then next one would be, does the Procore integration have to connect to the same model that you're using to publish to Procore? The example is, I sent out an NWD to the coordination team, but it does not seem that they can connect the file to Procore unless they publish it to an NWF file.
So I do for the Procore integration itself to work. It needs to be the model that has been published to Procore, I believe, or at least the one that has been linked to your Procore project through the Procore integration, or through the Procore plugin. So if you produce an NWD from your NWF and give it to somebody else, obviously those issues still exist in Procore. They're not going to be able to use the sync feature, which you probably don't want them to be able to either, because that's kind of something that you're managing as you're going. So I mean, they should be able to still see the issues, but yeah. So I think that would still work for you.
Great. Okay. And then next one we got is, can you create issues for multiple clash tests at once, or do you need to create issues on one clash at a time?
Yeah. It is one clash test at a time, because it is all just based off of which clashes you have selected in the Clash Detective currently.
Okay. Great. And then this next one is, can you mark up the screenshots from there? But I wasn't quite sure which one. So would you mind clarifying that one a bit more? I think it's Adrian.
Yeah, so sometimes when I'm creating coordination issues from Navis, I like to, use the arrow text circle tool. So then that shows up in the coordination issue in Procore. Does this allow you to use the markups? Is that kind of clear?
Yeah, so the markups that you've already applied to the viewpoint within Navisworks, those will translate to the snapshot that gets displayed in the coordination issue. So those are maintained, but as far as if those change in the future or if markups have been applied on the Procore side, those are not those types of changes don't sync currently. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
Great. Okay. Another one is, will the class numbering be changed so there wouldn't be the same number across tests on Procore? Then there's a period. On Procore, I have a duplicate numbers because they came from different class tests.
Yes, you would. You would have duplicate numbers because they come from different class tests. Honestly, you're the first person to ask about it. So I think that's definitely an issue, and we will create a ticket out of that for ourselves to work on so that you can have a setting that makes the class numbers unique across the entire model rather than just unique across each test, which is the way it is right now.
Okay. The next one we got here is there a way to use the geometry to be the area, like kind of an area zones where they can set their selection sets for grouping by an area?
Yeah, so I think that kind of plays into the what's on our roadmap there for areas or for Distill, the naming tags for 3D model geometry, because you will be able to import that 3D model geometry and use it as something that's going to name your class groups. So that is coming. I will say that we aren't going to give the ability for you to group by, like, make your groups be, all the classes within one of those areas, one of those 3D areas that you draw on. Distill will always create, what we consider issues to be resolved as the groups. So we always want to kind of group things in that way, rather than saying, everything in a room gets grouped together. That's not really how the Distill works, but we will give you the ability to, include that name of that 3D area within the various groups that are within that 3D area, if that makes sense.
Okay. And then another one we got over here is there a network license manager? I think as of now is the question. If I'm getting that right. Yeah.
Currently the only management that you really have is like through through the Navisworks plugin, so that you can release it whenever you want on your own individual computer, and it will tell you the computer that has it checked out if it's already been checked out. But there is no other management beyond that right now. So that's kind of where that enterprise functionality is going to come in, to give an admin the ability to kind of see who's using these licenses and who needs to be kicked off and that kind of stuff.
Okay, great.
But one thing I will say is that if you ever have a problem, like somebody leaves their computer on, and you need to use the license, or your computer crashes or something like that, and it didn't release the license, that kind of stuff, shoot a quick note to support@flypaper.com. We're very fast in responding to those types of license requests, as well as all of our other support tickets. But we know that if you need something released, you pretty much need it now. So we're always constantly monitoring that for those types of tickets.
Great. Okay. And another one is the NWF Navisworks model being hosted on Procore?
So it does not have to be. The one that I showed was, it just needs to be linked to the Procore project. So it does not have to actually be hosted on Procore.
Okay, great. Then another one is, does everyone have access/control in the NWF model on Procore to update and approve clashes and changes in the signees?
Yeah, so it all is based off of, your access controls inside of Procore. So whoever, if you have access to do that inside of Procore, then you've got access to do it via our integration. Otherwise, you don't. So it's using your Procore account to do any changes inside of Procore. So if you don't have access in Procore, it won't let you do it.
Perfect, fair enough. Then another one we have over here is in the distill settings, what are the measurements in feet or radius for the slider tab, like the global versus focus slider tab? Yeah, like what is that measurement and how does it work, I think is the question.
Yeah, I think you're referring to the global maximum on the slider in the settings tab. So that it is in feet. It is a radius. So that kind of clears up the units there. Really, the only reason that even exists, that setting exists for you to be able to change what that global maximum is we had some customers that were clashing models that were very large. They were infrastructure models, and they wanted the clashes to be grouped together that were very far apart. So they weren't just kind of normal commercial building types of clashes. So that's kind of why we added that. Great.
Okay. Well, that actually gets us through all the questions we'd asked so far. Anyone else have some last ones, or was that everything?
All right. Well then, let's do a quick recap of what's next. So we're going to break for 5 minutes here, and then we'll be right back. So I give everybody a chance to stretch their legs for a second. And then we will be back to talk about our other products, PlanScan and Daily. We'll do a refresher on those. We'll talk about the roadmap for those. We'll do a Q&A for those. And then we will just do a closing remarks and we'll be done. So we will start our 5-minute break here. So we'll be back, around 1:18, 1:19 Eastern time. So we are going to move on to talking about our Flypaper platform, which is our online web application that hosts our PlanScan product, as well as our Superintendent Daily application, which we just call Daily. So we're first going to go through a refresher on those two products, talk about what's new, talk about what's to come, and do the same kind of Q&A, and then we'll be done here. So what's PlanScan and Daily? Well, we'll start with PlanScan. So PlanScan is currently in a private beta, but we're always looking to gauge more interest on it. So it is the only digital twin pole planning software. And what I mean by that is it is the only pole planning software that has a physical aspect to it, as well as a digital aspect to it. So you can plan your pole plan via a physical printed out sticky note medium, and then quickly take all that information and scan it and put it all into the digital representation where you can do your reports and things like that. So where does it kind of fit in? It fits into the last planner system in the milestone, phase planning, look ahead planning, and weekly work planning. It's what PlanScan is for. It's for doing all of those types of planning things. And then we've integrated it with our Superintendent Daily application so that Daily kind of does the last piece of the last planner system, which is the learning and improving piece. So PlanScan, you plan activities. Daily, you're essentially saying, what did you do? Everybody, all their trade partners are telling you, what did you do that day? So there's a good, strong link between those things to be able to kind of update your plan with what actually happened on the job site that day, and also kind of learn from, what things maybe did not get done. So why have a physical pull planning solution? Why not just go completely digital, like some of the other pull planning applications that exist out there? Well, we believe that it truly does drive better collaboration and an increased buy-in from your trade partners. There's some psychology at play there, where when someone takes a sticky note, has it in their hand, physically is in the same room as everyone else, walks up to a board, sticks it on the board, and says, "I'm going to have this done by this date," there is a much stronger commitment that happens to that, rather than just everybody, on a digital platform and just throwing dates in there, which is very similar to, how traditional CPM scheduling gets done. So we truly believe that physical aspect is key to having efficient pull planning sessions, and pull planning sessions where everyone has actually committed to the activities that they put on those boards. But there is the entire virtual side of that you really do need. So rather than just having sticky notes on a board and that's your documentation, that's what PlanScan does. It makes it so that you can do your physical pull plan, and you can scan that board within a matter of minutes and have that all translated to a digital representation of that schedule, with the ability for you to print out reports. So what the entire workflow looks like is that you can create activities within our PlanScan application that can either be imported activities from P6, which you can split apart into smaller activities, or you can import them from Excel, or you can create them in the online application. You print them out onto the sticky note paper, which, if I go back here, you can see that in these images here, these are pre-printed with the contractor's logo, with a QR code on it, with the title written onto it via a printer rather than somebody's handwriting, which maybe you can't read anymore. So now you can kind of just get to pull planning when everybody jumps in the same room. They come with their pre-printed sticky notes for their activities, and they're ready to start planning. So there's no time spent of somebody sitting down, handwriting a sticky note, putting it on the board, thinking about what activities they want to do. This kind of forces people to think about it a little bit beforehand, which activities that they need to plan. And then they can kind of come with their pre-printed out sticky notes, so you can get right to planning. So after that, you do your whole pull planning session, and then you just take our mobile application and you scan the board. And it's really as simple as that. It's scanning down every column of the board to pull in all the dates and all the information for those activities into the interface, which allows you to produce look-ahead schedules, P6 exports, variance reports, and all those types of things, and also PPC reports. And then it links directly into Daily, which is by allowing the superintendents and field foremen to check off activities that are finished within their daily report and have that information get put back into the plan for you. So what's new with PlanScan and Daily? Well, there's a few things. So one is that we've added powerful filtering to all of our interface across Daily and PlanScan. I'll just kind of show that off really quickly here. If I bring up this browser, this is a representation of, this is our Daily product. We've added this filter bar to the top of Daily and PlanScan, so it's always accessible for you. And you're able to just quickly build out any number of filtering that you want to do. So you can filter by any of the fields within any of these, the work logs. So if you wanted to say, I only want to see things that are inside of area, and it looks like I don't have any areas in here, but I can do areas none, any areas any. I could do only ones that are written by, say, Flypaper Technologies, and that will filter off down here as well. So let me close that. If I remove the filter, you can see that another one pops up. If I do, I only want to see work logs for Barton Malow Company, you can see that it will automatically filter my view down here as well. And it's also always remembering your filters. So if I refresh the page, it will still apply the same exact filter. And it's also remembering which ones that you've done in the past so that you can star them if they're a specific filter that you want it to always come back to. You can do that so that it remembers it, and then it also will always show you your most recent 10 filter queries as well. And that is true across daily and plan scan. So I'll kind of show it off in plan scan in a bit here. So that's the filtering we've added to the platform. Inside of plan scan specifically, we have added pre-printed blank sticky notes. So I know I just talked about how you want people to come with their pre-printed sticky notes that have all their activity information on them. But we all know that when you get to planning, you think of new activities that you should have done. So what this feature allows you to do is it allows you to pre-print blank sticky notes for somebody that already have QR codes on them, for someone to be able to handwrite onto those sticky notes, just so that you can keep the poll planning process moving forward rather than thinking about, oh, I got to jump back into the plan scan and I got to make an activity and then I got to print it out and then now I can put it on the board. With these blank ones, you're able to just pre-print a bunch of blank ones and then you just handwrite it, put it on the board, you keep moving on with your poll planning session. And then when you come back with your scanner, it will prompt the user that's scanning the board to input, the actual title information and all that kind of stuff. And then it'll just show up inside of the virtual. So that kind of gets you around the, oh no, I forgot to create one of my activities. And I can kind of show that off as well. So let me jump into plan scan. So this is the plan scan interface. This is the virtual view of all the activities that are being planned. But you can come in here now and you can print blank sticky notes. And you can choose however many pages you want to print of those things. So I'm going to just choose one for now. And you can see that it will print out onto that sticky note paper that we provide the title area and the predecessor locations, and then an ability for you to kind of just write in what company it's for. These have QR codes on them. They will be created, so they will work just like the other activities once you've added the title information and stuff. Once again, you only have to add that information when you're doing the scanning at the end of your poll planning session. So you'll scan one that's blank. If the scanner recognizes that it doesn't have a corresponding activity in the system yet, then it will prompt that person to type in the title in the area, and then you'll just move on. So it doesn't ever stop the poll planning session. You don't have to actually jump back into the plan scan interface to do your poll planning session ever. We did release an improved scanning experience. It is now just as easy as I described. You just hold the phone and scan down every date column of your poll plan, and it will update everything for you. We've also kind of revamped that timeline view. So we've made this a little more compact so that you can see everything. We moved these company titles from the side. They were taking up a lot of space on the left-hand side, so now they're above. So things like that. We've added a lot more information to these hovers. Things like the areas, the dates, the last scan date, which is the last thing on that. So July 20, 2023 was the last time that activity was scanned. That's also something we added in the last year so that you can kind of know which things are being scanned. And we've also added that to the filter as well. You can filter by when things were scanned so that you can kind of see, like, did we miss one or things like that as well. This timeline also, I think we've added the date window. We've made the a full screen mode of this thing so that you can really see everything all at once, especially on a larger screen. You can kind of zoom in and see all the activities that are stacked on top of each other. And you also can group this timeline now by really any of these things. So if you want to group by area, it'll group it down here in the list view, but it will also group it up here as well so that you can kind of see activities by area or, by status, by company. If you don't want a grouping by author, things like that, you can group by start date, And then you'll kind of get a, just to see how things kind of track out, just kind of like a CPM schedule would look, things like that. And yeah, I'll just switch that back to company. One of the other things that we made changes to down here is we have, multiple tabs in here now. So we have a timeline tab, which is just always going to be the activities that are referenced inside of this timeline that I'm currently looking at. So if I move the date window forward or back, this timeline tab will update with whatever activities are in here as well. You can also look at that as a list as well, rather than those cards. And this activities tab will have all of the activities that are in the system. And that's to give you kind of the ability to look at the ones that are maybe not planned yet, or are not actually on this current view of this 2-week timeline that I'm currently looking at here. And yeah, the last thing that we added to PlanScan was we added the concept of an update date, which is essentially very similar to a baseline in traditional scheduling. So it essentially allows you to just put points in time to say, hey, I did an update at this point in time, or I did a poll planning session. And that allows all the reports to use that. So you can say, I want to look at the PPC report between the last update date and this update date, or I want to look at the variance report from 3 updates to now. So now you kind of have those points in time to reference when you're generating those reports. All right, and then for daily, we have added an inclement weather tracking with time lost into it. What that means is that if I pop up here and I go to daily, you can see in here, let me change off my filter here. So we've added this toggle within the work logs for someone that's filling out their daily. So, they fill out their traditional information, crew size, crew hour, description, but this inclement weather icon here allows them to, say how many hours they lost due to some type of bad weather, depending on if that's rain or thunderstorms or what have you, or high winds because you weren't able to do some crane picks because of that. Things like that. You're able to kind of bake that right into your daily report. It'll show up on the daily report that's the amount of man hours that were lost due to that weather event. And you can describe how that impacted your crew. And then also there's a report for inclement weather as well. So you can kind of just take a look at, all right, here's a report of all the man hours lost on my job based off of what people have said for the inclement weather. All right. We've also added JSON and CSV exports for all of our reports. So that gives you the ability to take any of our reports, if it's a daily report, a monthly report, a yearly report, what have you, any of the data that is on that PDF report can also now be exported in JSON or CSV for you to load into whatever type of dashboarding solution that you may have. We've also created public APIs for querying all of the daily data. So if you want to be able to hook that up to, say, a Power BI report that just is automatically refreshed, you're able to do that now. And we also added to our report generator the ability for you to bulk download daily reports. So previously you would have to go to if you wanted a month's worth of daily reports, you had to go to every single day and hit download on it. But now there is the ability for you to just simply come to the report generator, choose the type of daily report, and then you can either choose a date range or you can choose a single day here. So you could say, I want all of this month's dailies, and I want to download the zip file of all of those things. So that was a highly suggested feature from a lot of our customers. So that's basically what happened over the last year. And now onto the roadmap. So the roadmap looks pretty heavy for PlanScan because it is our newest product there. And we are trying to get that thing out of private beta. So a few things that we want to do is right now the mobile app is just used to scan the board. There's no way to review the plan unless you're on an iPad. But on a mobile phone or an iPad, we want to make it even easier for you to view the visual interface of your plan. We also want to make it easier for you to bulk create activities. Right now, you can import from an Excel template or from P6, but we want to also just make it a lot faster and easier for you to just type in a bunch of activities into the system rather than clicking add activity, typing in the information into a card, clicking add activity again. We want to make a bulk activity creation feature that will make it a lot faster for people to be able to do that. Because one thing that we realized is that some trade partners don't even have Excel anymore. So, but they do have an iPad. So if we make it easier for those trade partners to import or to just create a lot of activities all at once, basically as easy as it would be if they were typing it into Excel, that's what we want to do there. We also are planning on some P6 integration improvements. Right now, you can update your P6 schedule from activities that were imported from P6, but we also want to be able to create P6 activities from PlanScan as well. So if you're doing that like milestone planning before you even have a P6 schedule, you want to be able to take those milestones and get them into P6 from PlanScan. So we're going to be working on that as well. And then going back to those blank stickies that we introduced, they're always gray colored because they're not associated with any company. And you do have the ability to go in and after it's been created as a real activity, you can print it and it will have the color and the logo and everything. But it's been requested by a lot of our trade partners to just be able to print out those blank stickies with all of the right color for the subcontractor and the trade partner's logo on it as well. So we'll be able to kind of print out, a handful of blank stickies for, say, Bart Mello, and for all the other different trade partners, so that they're kind of pre-colored and have the logos on them for them. And then with Daily, we will be introducing Autodesk Build integration support. We still have the old BIM 360 integration support there, but we will be adding Autodesk Build integration support there as well. And then platform-wide, this is a big one. We're going to be adding in global search. Right now, there is no global search across PlanScan and Daily, so you can't just type in like, show me or get me the work logs that mention crane in my projects or something like that. You can't. There's no good searching capability like that. We introduced the filters last year, and this is going to be kind of a global app-wide search for you to be able to search within things. That brings me to the Q&A.
Great. Okay. Well, we do have a few questions over here. I think let's start with this one. So if you were to update your physical pole planning, can you rescan and have that update the digital version?
Absolutely. Yep, that's exactly how it works. So as you do your next pole planning session, say you're doing like weekly work planning and you're planning out a couple weeks, it's next week, and now you come in to do an update of that. You just move your sticky notes around on the board and rescan the board, and everything will update inside of PlanScan as well.
Awesome. Okay. And I think this next question might be going back to Sherlock a bit, but is there a Procore plugin / button to take you to the Flypaper interface? Or I got a little lost by where they were going with that one. So if I think it's Vishal, if you wouldn't mind clarifying that a bit more.
Yes. So I've seen some of the other applications have a way to go to the Flypaper or their own interfaces from Procore to the apps drop-down menu on the top right on Procore. I was wondering because the pool planning had its own page, right? I was wondering if there's a way to go directly from Procore to there, because most of our employees are like very Procore savvy, but not necessarily want to jump to several other tools. So there's a way to go to that tool directly from Procore.
Gotcha. Yeah. So right now, the only one of our products that integrates with Procore right now is that Sherlock product. But if I go and I jump into Navisworks, so one thing you will see their interface, right? The Procore plugin for Navisworks, it does have our Sherlock integration right here. So that will jump you right into this. Otherwise, if you don't have Sherlock installed, it will bring up our Procore integration specific Sherlock page that kind of walks that user through, you know, how to install Sherlock, how to get it, how to get a trial, and also how to enable it inside of Procore, so that it kind of walks them through that process.
Okay, does that cover your question or not quite?
I was thinking more from Procore, but that's also good to know.
Gotcha. Yeah, there is nothing directly inside of Procore besides at the Procore marketplace for you to be able to find like our integration though.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, great. Another question we have is for PlanScan, when will it be out of private beta?
That is a good question. I can't really give you a solid time frame on it, but I'm happy to talk more offline if you are interested in talking more about PlanScan once it comes out of the private beta.
Great. Okay. And then another one is for daily. So this is if it looks like they're trying to onboard a new team, and like what's the best way to do that? What are the resources there are for like onboarding someone to daily?
Yeah, we offer a few different things. One of the things that I think people like the best is we have this button that says schedule time with a human. So if you want to do that, you can go to the menu and hit schedule time with a human, and that will bring you to a scheduling thing that you can pick a time that works well for you and your team. And one of us from Flypaper will do a demo for you and answer all the questions that you want. There's also documentation as well, built right in as well. But people definitely do gravitate toward the schedule time with a human.
Great. Okay. Another thing to note is that there are some training videos put on our YouTube channel for walking you through not only daily features, but also Sherlock features. So if you are doing some onboarding, the demos are a great option, but then also you can have those videos to watch whenever makes sense for you as well.
Yeah. That's a good point, Andrew. We do a lot of our documentation via videos, and we call it Flypaper Academy. We have the videos there, and we also post them all on our website as well under support. So you can access all of those videos. We try to make those videos as useful as possible for somebody to do pretty in-depth walkthroughs.
Okay, great. And another one we have is kind of about the history of a work log. So looks like they're having a bit of trouble with their contractors saying they have filled out a work log, but then it turns out that they may not have. So is there a way to kind of follow the trail or audit what information's been input by who? Yeah,
that's a good question. Let me jump back over here. So basically, we track everything that happens in the system. So we have a full history of every single record that exists, not only in daily but also in PlanScan. So pretty much everywhere we show this history tab here. So you can check that history tab to see what has changed. So in this one specifically, nothing's been changed. But say if I make some changes here. I can change those two things. I can go to the history. You can say that the crew size was changed to 3 and the crew hours were changed to 4. So, and who did it? So, and at what time did they do it? So Nick Fredericks did that at 1:45. We do that for everything. We do that for PlanScan as well. So if I take a look at, any of these, let me just jump into this one, hit the history on it. You can see that this one was created, then the start and end date was changed, then the start and end date was changed. So you can kind of see that history of your pool planning sessions in that way. And also, when somebody has marked it as completed, it would say when they marked it as completed, things like that. So all that audit trail is always available to you within any of those.
Great. Well, does anyone else have any other questions? I think we got the ones submitted so far. Oh, actually, we just had one pop in. Do you think there's any interest in notification feature for daily, such as a way to send contractors a reminder when they haven't done their daily report in time?
Yes, there definitely is. We get asked about it every once in a while. It is in our backlog. I purposely did not put that on the roadmap because I didn't want to get people's hopes up that it would be implemented in the near term. But it's definitely something that we will be implementing in the future.
Great. Okay. So yeah, I guess one more last call. Any other questions from anybody, or did we cover them all for now? Okay, looks like we might be good.
Then I've just got a couple other just closing slides. So one thing I just want to cover is if you want to see us in person, we will be at Autodesk University. We will also be attending LCI, which is in Detroit this year, which is where we're at. So it'll be easy for us to go to. And I will also be attending Procore Groundbreak. So I'll be around the Procore guys there, around the coordination issues kind of area inside the expo hall. But I'm attending that. We don't have a booth there as well. So if you're attending, feel free to reach out to me. We should meet up. Other places that you can find us if you're not going to go to any of those conferences is we do have a Discord community where we kind of answer questions and things like that. We also have our website, flypaper.com/news, that kind of keeps you up to date with things that are happening at Flypaper. And then all of our other various social medias. We talked about the YouTube channel, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And then the last thing is that we do have all those bite-sized training series, which is what we call Flypaper Academy. It's our collection of tips and tricks and just like walkthroughs of every one of our applications. You can find all those things on our website and also on our YouTube channel as well. And that's it. Thank you all for attending the 4th annual Flypaper Summit. This was a lot of fun. I'm glad we had a lot of questions. And I look forward to implementing a lot of these new features and getting some more feedback from you guys and seeing you next year.